Hey everyone, this is Irlianna Samsara of StarSound Speaks. Welcome back to another edition. It's episode 207, and I've got a really juicy episode here for you. Lots of great practical information as we head into the eclipses on Tuesday, solar eclipse, and then November 8th, lunar eclipse. So in this episode, I'm going to give you 5 tips, best practices from all my years of observing eclipses. 5 tips that are good for whatever eclipse it is in whatever sign. And then I'm going to be specific, move into specific things for this eclipse. Remedies and ideas and things to contemplate and think about. And then I'm going to take you through the houses. So where will these eclipses occur in your chart? And what you might expect in terms of transformation. Remember, eclipses are always major endings, major beginnings. And then finally, if you listen all the way through, what I have looked at is generations. There are I use outer planets in my work. I'm Helen. If you don't know me and you're new to the channel, hello, thank you, welcome. I do Hellenistic astrology, which is ancient astrology, or it's also known as traditional astrology, but I blend it with modern because I've had 20 years of modern study, so I two are very great, and so I blend them. And I just want to say that at the end of this video, I'm going to talk about this where these eclipses are falling on some outer planets for certain generations of people. So I'll tell you exactly what age group that is. And, if that is yours, and, hey, wow, really outer planets are around major societal events and things because they move so slowly. So anyway, it always fascinates me to see what that might have, in store for all of us. So, okay, let's dive in. So number 1, the first 5 tips for the eclipse. Okay, here's some general advice. Let's just get clear about what eclipses are. So in an eclipse, well, I mean, I don't mean just the fact that it's, what it is scientifically, although let's take a moment because some people new to astrology are just learning and they don't understand why is this so important. Eclipses only happen twice a year, sometimes 3, depends, but they're bookends, right? They're bookended, so solar lunar eclipses. And so these are very important events because the sun is completely blocked, right? In a solar eclipse, the sun is completely blocked by the moon. And I want to show you this as an example and really get the symbolism of this. Okay, so I have these I'm just going to show you some of these slides that I had from a webinar I had done, and some of these apply, the general ones here. This is a great quote from Buddha: 3 things that cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. So that is, although those things the truth can certainly be exposed anytime, it's especially powerful when we have these eclipses because they are so rare. So let me move on and show you. Okay, here's what it looks like. Lunar node, south node, north node, right? So the crossing point is where, when an eclipse happens, the sun, the moon, the earth all line up at the same place. In this case, right now, we were dealing with our Taurus north node, Scorpio south node. So a south node eclipse, generally speaking, that in the collective, you usually see the fall of leaders. Either they pass on or they retire or whatever. Obviously, we saw in the shadow just before this, in these Taurus Scorpio eclipses, Queen Elizabeth, who was a 0-degree Taurus, she passed on. Liz Truss came and went pretty quick, right? There's the beginning and ending rather quickly. In Italy, that very far right, the first woman prime minister, very ultra far right neo-fascist. Hey, it's Uranus and Taurus. What can I say? Georgia Maloney, I think her name is. So you're seeing a lot of world leaders, coming and going. And anyway, solar eclipses typically bring that. On a personal note, they're major. The sun represents the symbology is our soul, our life path, our mission, right? So our mission, the sun passing in front of the moon, passing in front of the sun, is a very, very vivid thing, right? It's very rare that it happens. So we really want to take note and take stock of our lives and do it calls forth a very profound level of self-examination. So I'm going to show you, I love to show this to my clients, and I'm going to show this to you. Let's see. Hold on just a second. Okay. Here's a fun picture for you. You remember Lily Tomlin, the telephone operator? What is an eclipse? Cosmic wake-up call, right? It happens. Now, look at this beautiful picture of this solar eclipse. This is a total solar. We're not having a total solar. They're kind of rare, but hey, an eclipse, we're not going to get little, too niggly wiggly about these details. We're just going to get into the fact that it is an eclipse, breakdown, breakthrough. Doesn't this remind you of, to me, it's like a dilated pupil, right? In the eye, the sun, it's like there's something that's right in front of us, the sun, but for a few moments we can't see it. So the sun goes offline, the luminaries, right? The luminaries, solar lunar eclipses, they go offline. We can't see them for a few moments. So something is eclipsed, and it's almost like the universe is saying, look, it's like this, look, really look. Here's this, dilated pupil. We want you to, like the universe saying, we want you to open your eyes and see there's something in front of you that you can't see, but it's right in front of you. And that's why eclipse season is so powerful, because it can be very uncomfortable, especially in a South Node Scorpio. We are letting go of things, but I'm going to talk more about that a little bit later. But anyway, there's the image that, I want you to really to think about, and think about eclipses in that way. There is certainly around eclipses, this is about, so number one on my list of what, of the 5 tips. Number one, get clear about what eclipses are. There is no going back. Major endings, major beginnings. My wonderful, one of my first astrology teachers, God rest her soul, Renee Liato. Love you, Renee. Mwah! She was a Scorpio. You would appreciate this. I know you're watching over me, Renee. But she was a brilliant, brilliant writer, and as well as a brilliant, brilliant astrologer. But she spoke about magical, and she said that eclipses, and I borrow this from her with all props to Renee, magical, incongruous, nonlinear change. That's what an eclipse provides. So magical sounds great, and it can be. It's just, but it's not always, right? I mean, sometimes it can be a little scary, but magic can go both ways. Transformation can go both ways. But the fact that it's nonlinear. So this is where something goes offline and then comes back online. So, and it's a quantum shift that happens. It's not gradual, it's nonlinear, judging paradigm shift, awakening, right? And so this is, I want to talk about too here is, there's an analogy that I often use besides the iris, of the solar eclipse or the pupil. What I think about, I saw a picture once on social media. It was really cute. It was a train going across a gorge, one of those trains that bridges that cross like mountain gorges of the high arches. I'm sure you can picture that. And it was like this little, what do they call it? A GIF, the little moving image, and it showed this train choo-choo going right across the gorge. And as it was speeding across the gorge, the train track was falling right behind the last car. So it crosses the gorge, but there's no more track. So that's exactly what an eclipse does. It's over, there's no going back. There's another analogy I want to share with you, and I have to say props to 2 people. One is Rachel Middleton, my wonderful, who our next episode, we are having Rachel on, with the Scorpio archetype. We're going to be talking about that because the sun, of course, being in Scorpio season now. But anyway, Rachel told me that Susan, she gave the credits, it's Susan Miller's, but I learned about it through Rachel. So thank you to both ladies. It is about an eclipse going, what it represents is, where she said it was like if you're on a horse and the horse is entering a thicket. So there's this deep forest and you can't see where you're going. but the horse knows. And there's nothing you can do. You just have to let go and be out of control. But the horse is in control. So you just try not to get too damaged, you know, by the branches, right? So I would think, you know, being like a jockey, hanging on, right, deeply, hug that horse as it's going through the forest. And you can't see and make decisions or anything like that, right? And you just have to go with it. And then eventually it comes out into this wide open field and the sun is shining and, you know, you can see clearly, right? But in that time period of that eclipse window, it's not the time to make decisions, right? The horse isn't going back into the thicket. You're continuing on your journey, but there are things that get revealed. And that is why it's so important to understand that it's okay that you don't know and you feel discombobulated, especially in a south node eclipse. Things are falling away. South node is Ketu in Vedic astrology, and it's the dragon's tail. So this is about releasing and decrease and letting go. So I just thought to share those two things: the train, the horse, and the pupil. Right? That's the story of eclipses right there, bringing about magical, incongruous, nonlinear change. I would say cultivating in that, you know, cultivating stillness is essential in any eclipse. Everything is changing around you. So be the observer, hold space, watch, observe, breathe. Try not to put any, you know, as soon as you try to decide, oh, look what happened, this is wonderful. It's like, no, there's more coming. Another analogy, it's like going down the whitewater rafting, like the Colorado River. I never did it personally, but I know people have taken it, and they said like 90% of it is you're just going through like still calm water. It's just only at certain points is it those, you know, class 5 or class 6 rapids. Well, the eclipse is the rapids. So you have to wait until that's through before you can kind of process and allow that. So just be that, you know, be alert, breathe, be in the place of chaos. Just keep moving, you know, move forward, but with stillness, and just be the observer. The second thing tip I want to give you is don't fear eclipses. So let me show you here. Give you an example here. Two from history that I love to share. Okay, Coco Gauff, that little gal, she came back in the news big time in the last couple of years. Back in 2019, if you remember, that's when she went on the world stage. So the day she beats Venus Williams, if you recall, in Wimbledon, right? Here's the picture, Star is Born. Well, of course, I had to go to the Wikipedia and look up her birthday and all that. And she had an eclipse. She had 2 eclipses that year on her Saturn. And so, yes, what is Saturn? Hard work, discipline, you know, rewards effort. And so effort, discipline, focus, all those years that she was deprived, Saturn is, you know, the deprivation because of focus and discipline. She didn't have a normal kitty, you know, teenage adolescence. So she was just had to work alone, work with world-class people, and trained, and the rigorous training you could imagine. She moved to Europe to work with people. It was just a huge story. Anyway, it paid off. Eclipse, right? Life is never the same again. She's on the world stage, and there's no going back to the unknown teenager. So here she is. Yay, Coco Gauff, 15, seizes her moment, upsetting Venus Williams at Wimbledon. So yeah, that's one example. Here's another, Tiger Woods. Okay, now, first bad news, then good news. So here we have Tiger Woods, solar eclipse in his 5th house. Well, 5th house rules sports. It also rules, you know, sex and, you know, extramarital affairs. We all know the story. It's funny because it's not funny, but, you know, the eclipse actually happened right near his Mercury. Well, Mercury, guess what Mercury rules? Windows. And 5th house, sports. What did Elin do? She grabbed that Callaway golf club and she smashed that window. It's like every little detail is reflected. This is what I love about astrology. It's everywhere, right? It's in everything. So that was his, and what was eclipsed was because what was Mercury? Mercury rules his 10th house of career and public reputation. Well, obviously his reputation was eclipsed, right? 18 girlfriends will do that to you when you're married, and a big star, big rock star, right? So anyway, but the good news is he did the work that was required of him. Mercury is also about the trickster and, you know, hiding out and you know, play and tricks in the fifth house of you know, sex and romance. Yes, and he dealt with his, you know, he said he had like a sex addiction and you know, all that stuff. He did the work of the eclipse. He worked hard. He also, you know, he had all those injuries and things, and he came out on top. So guess what? 2019, they consider this one of the greatest, if not the greatest, comebacks in any sport in history, when he won the Masters after having all that major back surgery. Most people in the golf world, they didn't think he'd ever you know, play golf again, and or at least, you know, compete, and certainly at that level, but he did. And in 2019 he got the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So you see how if you do the work of an eclipse, but what is asked of you, it can bring you know, great rewards. Another great one example, 1994, Steven Spielberg had 2 solar eclipses in his 11th house, won 2 Oscars. 11th house rules one's peers and colleagues. Well, at that time, up until that time, before he won for Schindler's List, he was known as a commercial director. You know, Jaws and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and, you know, even the Goonies that I think he produced the Goonies. But anyway, you know, those all-American pop culture kind of films. In Hollywood, they did not consider him, they, you know, snobby, right? They're like, oh, well, he's great, but he's a commercial director. Well, then Eclipse, everything got changed. He became an auteur, what was considered, he's now an auteur from that moment. So he did Schindler's List, so very serious films, very profound, and won 2 Oscars, and then of course his life, you know, eclipsed, right? A whole new chapter for him. So I just wanted to bring those out as examples, because a lot of people, and traditionally people think, you know, in the old days, people saw the sun black out and they think, oh my God, it's the end of the world. And sometimes it can be very scary to us if we don't know, you know, what that is. But these are examples to show you how they can really change your life very profoundly. And that even though, like in Tiger Woods' example, it changed his life where he lost his wife, you know, and broke up his family. It was very, very tragic. However, he renewed and he did the work and, excuse me, came out on top again. Okay, next. Here's another tip. Tip number 3, before the eclipse, be proactive. Now, if you haven't done any work on yourself before this eclipse, don't worry, I'm going to get to that in a moment. But ideally, you want to look ahead. So look ahead at the house and planets and the angles in your chart that it touches. If you don't know, if you don't have a chart, you can get one for free at astro.com. You got your birth time, you can plug it in. You want to look at the house, the planets, and the angles that it touches. Houses, and I'm going to go over this later at the end of the video, where which signs, zodiac signs, is where this particular eclipse is going to be angular, which means it really speaks very loudly, more than others. It's always important, but then it's especially highlighted when you have the eclipse in an angular house. But I'll get into that in a bit. This is where you want to clean up in those areas before the eclipse. And I love the fact that, you know, here's this, you know, 50s housewife, Venus, you know, this ideal, gorgeous thing. Well, we have Venus conjunct. Well, that's more, but this, I gotta wait till later. Gateway later. Let me finish my 5 points here. I'm up to number 3. But I'm going to tell you about Venus, you know, with her, well, I'll just tell you now since I started, right? I'm non-linear, right? I get to be, look at this picture, this Venusian beauty, you know, this ideal beauty, but the shallowness of that is the shadow. So Venus and Scorpio, it's like, where are we being so shallow around our need to look good and our relationships? You know, are we intimate or are we not? Where are we withholding? Are we toxic? Cleaning up, right? The Scorpio is about purging. So here's cleaning up, but I would say more than just I'd use a vacuum cleaner and a colonic bucket, but anyway, but there's, yeah, the whole idea about being proactive and looking and seeing, okay, what is the area of my life which needs to be reprogrammed? And if you can make effort before it. So the next eclipses are going to be in April. It'll be in the end of April of next year, and then in October. And so they will be, April, May, and then later in the fall, we will have the eclipses will change signs, but that's for another day. The nodes will change signs. Anyway, but so if you know where it's coming ahead of time, then you can be proactive and look and see. So do the work. It's absolutely worth it. Because the more ahead of it you are, then you can meet it, and you're not getting knocked around by it. It's like you're on the horse in the thicket, and instead of being thrown and getting your face scratched, or maybe, your eye poked or something, being proactive is like, okay, I'm going to hug that horse. I'm going to lean into it rather than just, resist it. So my dear friend, Renee, in spirit, she also had another great thing. Besides saying magical, incongruous, nonlinear change, she also said, when you do the work of an eclipse, and you will get rewarded, like you saw with Tiger. Okay, maybe you won't win the Masters, but you'll win the Masters in your own life, or you have the opportunity to. Let me show you. I love this one. Make positive efforts in the areas of life ruled by those houses, Renee said. Then watch the upcoming solar eclipses pop those balloons and make the good consequences rain down upon your life like a good karma piñata. I love that. Isn't that great? She actually won an Emmy. She was on a team of writers that won an Emmy. It was pretty cool. So yeah, brilliant writer. And I share her writing with all of you because I know it benefited my life, and I desire to share that transformation. Okay. Okay, tip number 4, avoid making any kind of major decisions in this time period. Signing contracts, starting a business, get out of the thicket first, because you can't see right now. And it's okay that you can't see. Don't beat yourself up. This is a time of rest and reflection. Not a good plan to get married. I mean, okay, well, who could we ask about this? Well, okay, let's see. Yeah. Where is she? Can I see? Where am I here? Where's my screen? Hold on a second. All right, guys. Okay. This is what happens when you get married in an eclipse. Oh my goodness. By the way, I looked at that chart of the day and the hour that they got married, and it was definitely not serving her beyond the beyond. But anyway, the fact that they got married on a balsamic moon. It was like the day before the eclipse. She was married in between eclipses, right? So it was like 2 days before the solar eclipse. So there was it was a balsamic moon. So there's like having 1%. It's like getting married and you have 1% left on your cell phone. Like there's no battery power to that. There's no juice. There's no oomph at the end of that moon cycle. But anyway, so yeah, that's case in point. Not a good plan. Or if you do get married in an eclipse, I'm not saying like do and don't, like you could never do it. It's just that the quality of it would obviously be about the very nature of the very nature of your marriage would be about blind spots and overcoming, encountering and overcoming blind spots. I don't know if you want to get married as you're riding through a thicket, your choice, but just saying. Anyway, all right, going on to the next one. Number 5, some people who do ritual and ceremony and things, they sometimes I hear people go, I'm going to do magic and I'm going to make this and I'm going to do this. And I'm like, the conventional wisdom of that is no, don't. Even with normally, if you in any new moon lunation, people make lists and like, this is what I want to achieve. And I'm going to put this message out to the universe. And here are my goals, and making an effort. And I'm planning all this stuff. And no, this is the twice in a year where you don't do anything. There was a great saying I saw once on a t-shirt. It said, meditation, don't just do something, sit there. And you could apply that to a solar eclipse or either solar or lunar eclipse. Just sit, be, don't make an effort. The luminaries are offline, follow their lead, go offline. Just like and this, especially with this solar south node in Scorpio, really let go, right? So this brings us into the next part of this chat is specific for this eclipse. Mars is the ruler, and he is now, as of today, out of bounds until Cinco de Mayo. So he is moving into directions that he normally doesn't go in. And this is in Gemini. So our thoughts and our stories around our goals and our ambition is really loud. He's the ruler of the eclipse because it's in Scorpio. So, and he is about to go retrograde in the middle of the eclipse window. He's going retrograde in the sign, and Mercury's sign of Gemini. So you talk about changing your mind and your goals and changing again, going back and revising things in writing and such, contracts, writing, negotiations, maybe secret agreements or secret connections that come to light, and events and things. But it is very potent. And I would say, be very fluid, stay out of your logical, logistic mind. With normally in a new moon, or certainly, because it's in Scorpio, normally a new moon is like, hey, new beginning, right? But with Scorpio, South Node Scorpio, what you really have to do first is, before you can move forward, you have to look at what you're willing to let go of. You have to be willing to look at what are your deepest fears. And if you're not willing to look, well, the universe will show you. Just be really quiet and alert and watch. And don't judge, just watch and observe. And these weeks are really, truly magical. We can get a lot of really deep, profound psychological insights. It could be painful. They may be, when you think about Scorpio, emotional, deep, cathartic, volcanic, explosive, emotional confronts. But through that catharsis is this liberation, is this rebirth. But we must confront this subconscious fears and layers of things that are maybe deep and buried, painful, about sexuality, about intimacy, with Venus conjunct there. It's like, remember the woman's face, the 50s housewife I just showed you with the cutesy, it's like, wow, where have we, Venus on the surface is all about glamour, and it can be very shallow. So where are we afraid to let go and be authentic and not be like surface, shallow? Changing our mind, purifying our mind. I want to show you a really cool picture too of another one. Here's a picture of a yogi I've spoken about before. This is Yogi Gurunath Siddhanath, and he is doing in India. He has an ashram in Pune or outside Pune in India, and he's doing Ayurvedic purification. This object that he's pouring water on is called a Shivling. And it is made of 100% pure mercury, a Mercury Shivling. This is definitely in the category, file this under do not do this at home. Mercury, obviously, as we know from our high school biology class, is toxic. So to touch it, right? Mercury poisoning, it can kill people. Well, obviously a guru with his siddha powers can, what he does is transmute this. So he took this mercury and with his bare hands worked it with months and months of prayer and created this Shivling, which is actually purifying the mind. And he did this to purify the world mind. Totally on my bucket list. One day I will go to India and I would like to be in the presence of this. This was made for the planet to help reduce chatty mind. So there is an Ayurvedic purification element to Mercury. Mercury is the chatty, logical mind, that wants to count. And, at least the Gemini version of Mercury is that day. It's, very alert and very left brain. Well, this is a purification process that he did. And a Shivling is this, it's a lingam of Mercury, right? So this is an enormously powerful transformative force. So we could use these concepts to align with our, you know, in our meditations for this eclipse, to really look at and see, you know, putting that mind to rest. We could say that we could call upon and maybe connect in our dreams and meditations with the Mercury Shivling and ask, you know, what needs to, you know, what, show me, you know, reveal unto me what needs to be purified. Okay, next, let's see what we got. Okay, the ideas around, I would say too, this particular eclipse has Mars squaring Neptune. So the ruler of the eclipse is in a square with Neptune right now. So what does that look like? Neptune in Pisces. I would say there's a big, as we're looking at our chatty mind, we're also considering, you know, that the square with Mercury, I'm sorry, the square with Neptune can really speak to a lot about breakdowns and breakthroughs with changing our mind around our attitudes towards getting help, like mental health help, addictions, any kind of addiction, you know, and it could be addiction to the internet. I mean, look, let's face it, you know, here I am talking to you on technology, but and I'm as guilty as anybody else. I have to constantly monitor myself because I could spend my whole day, you know, scrolling on everybody's, you know, whatever social media, and I have greatly reduced it more than most people. But still, it's just this constant thing. So this is a time to really look at that. I would say too, perhaps what toxic ideas around money and support need to be released so we can move forward. So, you know, the money is other people's money, Scorpio, and Venus is our own personal resources and our own personal self-worth, whether we're, especially for women, but really in general, what are our talents and our skills that are Scorpio hidden, that we don't see, that we don't give ourselves credit for? What are the resources that are available to us that are invisible, that can be called forth? What do we need to do to let go, to let those resources help us? What way of being? Here's another question. What relationships too, intimate relationships, sex and intimacy, you know, what relationships are toxic that need to be released at this time, that are no longer working? When you think about Venus, it also speaks to our living space. So cosmic house cleaning, right? Do some cosmic deep house cleaning. What am I afraid to let go of in my living space? You know, am I a hoarder? Do I hoard? Or, you know, what is hoarding? Typically, it's an unresolved trauma that we are carrying in our nadis and in the light of the meridians in our body. Where is this occurring for us? Is it occurring? And maybe it's occurring, but we can't see it, but the eclipse is going to show us. It's interesting because I got an email the other day from a wonderful friend who listens to this channel, and she was asking about that very subject. So I'm going to put, there was an episode I did, because she asked me, it was an episode I did with my dear friend Katarinah, who is an incredibly talented woman, and she is very psychic, and she's also does a lot of like messages from spirit, but she also loves, like totally loves personal organizing, whether it's homes, mostly homes, but offices, getting clutter out of people's lives and the transformational effect that has on people. But she has also done what I call cosmic house cleaning. She's kind of like Marie Kondo meets the Long Island Psychic, if you could imagine. So she does this really great work. And I'll put the link to this, her website, where she has some testimonials. You can read some real life stories. When you think about where we're holding on to things, she was just telling me she's been working on a storage unit of hers that had her mother's things, and she's been clearing that out. And she said, oh my goodness, when she hadn't been to it in many years and her mother had passed away, she went to it and opened the door, and there was all these interdimensional entities and things that were, the place needed to be cleared from the things and the space before she could let it go. So it's interesting because yes, cleaning up our place, we think of it on the 3D level, but it really is a whole lot more. So I think this eclipse really speaks to that, to go deeply into these levels of toxicity. So it's not just a physical environment toxicity, but could also be this interdimensional, right, entity toxicity. So yeah, so anyway, that's, you know, and so we might want to ask ourselves, you know, what am I afraid to let go of in a living space? It may not be us, you know, it may be some other interference, and we can do prayers and mantras to uplift and clear and purify ourselves. You can go on the internet, there's thousands of beautiful prayers, whether it's in the Vedic tradition or, you know, the Kabbalah or Christian or whatever floats your boat, you can find prayers that will support this process. For me, I've been chanting for, I love chanting in mantra. So Kali Durga and Kali Ma, she's the feminine Mars, right? So it's very appropriate for this eclipse cycle. You know, just to show me and slay the ego, right? And to help me slay my ego so that I can see clearly. Holotropic breath work would be another great, with Mars, the ruler in the air sign of Gemini. Holotropic breath work would be very profound, especially great to do. Kundalini yoga, you know, you can look these up online. Reprogramming ourselves and our light bodies. I would say too, on a more mundane level, colonics. Okay, let's just get right down to earth. Take it from the crown chakra to the root. Scorpio rules the reproductive organs and, you know, the tushy. So cleaning your colon, that would be, talk about getting rid of old things that you don't, that hamburger that you had in 2014, it's still like some energy of it is still sitting in your colon. It's amazing. If you've never done a colonic therapy or enema or whatever, you know, or any kind of colonic cleanse with herbs and supplements, it's unbelievable the difference that you feel and the shift in consciousness. So those are my ideas for you. So I'm going to finish out with this chat with where these are going to be occurring, where these eclipses are according to your sign. I would recommend reading this for your rising sign. If you know your rising sign, you can also read it for your sun sign, but the rising is more specific because it's to the time you were born. So anyway, so for the solar eclipse, it will be happening, if you have Libra rising, this solar eclipse is happening in your second house of money, personal possessions, talents, skills, those things. The lunar eclipse will be in your 8th house, other people's money. So they're in the money houses. So karmic bonds, who do we owe a debt to? Who owes a debt to us? These are things that are going to be coming up. The 8th house is truly, it's a place of death and rebirth. So letting go of old programming and fears and such around that will assist us very greatly with the lunar eclipse. The Scorpio, for you Scorpio risings, this is in your 1st house, which is your image, your physical body, your health, and your 7th house, which is relationships and the people that you collaborate with or you're married to or have a partnership with. This is one of the houses that are angular. So as you can see, yeah, angular houses speak with a megaphone, as Adam Ellenbass always told us in Nightlight. Yeah, so this is one of these highlighter pen places, the 1st and 7th houses. Sag rising, 12th house. This lunar eclipse, solar eclipse will be in your 12th house, which is the house of, well, like we call it the house of self-undoing. It's where you feel kind of shipwrecked, and it is often associated with a sacrifice or loss. But it is a very mystical place too. So it's not all bad. There are, by pulling back from the world, we can achieve, we can move into a higher state of transcendental awareness. And so it's calling us to that for you Sag risings. And the lunar eclipse will be in your 6th house, which is around one's daily routine and efforts, the workplace. Capricorn rising, or Capricorn rising, it'll be in your 11th house of friends, allies, and people who you are, your hopes, wishes, and dreams, groups and group organizations. Maybe a reprogramming or a falling away of who you thought was your tribe. Fifth house is the lunar eclipse will be in your fifth, which is about joy and pleasure, children, fertility, creative projects. Aquarius rising, you will have it in your 10th house of career and public reputation, authorities and such. Fourth house rules the lunar. Again, this is an angular eclipse, especially the highlighter pen on this one. Fourth house is angular, so that would be in the fourth house rules the home and the family, your home turf, your property. Pisces rising, ninth, it's in your ninth house, which is occult wisdom and foreign travel and long distance travel and higher wisdom, spirituality, yoga, right? Some breakthroughs, breakthroughs. Maybe there's some secrets you found, you know, some guru that you were involved with had a sex scandal. I don't know. Things can be revealed very profoundly to assist you in your own transformation. The lunar eclipse will be in your third house, which is about siblings, neighbors, more elementary levels of education, as well as connections with relatives and siblings. That'll be where the lunar occurs. The eighth house is in Aries rising. The eighth house is where the action takes place for you guys with the solar eclipse. And again, that's money houses. Lunar will be in your second. And again, resources, supporting, being supported. Where am I not supported? Where am I supported? And I don't realize I'm being supported. Will be coming up. Taurus, seventh house, is going to be Taurus rising. This is in your seventh house of partnership and people, like marriage partners, people you collaborate with. And the lunar will be, changes will be occurring in your first house, which is your self-image and physical health and body. And another angular house, right? Really important change period. Gemini, this solar eclipse will be in your sixth house of work, daily activity, employees, work, your day job, your area of routine and service. The lunar will be in your 12th house of, you know, that house of the joy of Saturn, right? Discipline, hard work, sacrifice, effort, sometimes loss, but you know, profoundly changing, where again, breakdowns lead to breakthroughs in transcendental consciousness, I would say. Fifth house for Cancer rising. So that's your children, creative projects, the joy of Venus, right? The joy that we get in adventure and creation and play and amusement. 11th house is the lunar eclipse, and that'll be where, you know, friends, allies, groups, tribe. Leo, your sixth house is where the Leo risings. It's going to be in your sixth house of work and daily effort. And 10th house, it's again, all the fixed signs. This is angular for you guys. So 10th house, which is your career and your public standing and your reputation. Virgo risings will be in the fourth house of the home. And let's see, let me make sure I have this. 11, 2, 1, 12, 11, 10, 9. Yeah. Okay. Oh, you know what? I made a whoop. Hold on a second. Mars out of balance in Gemini. It's almost, I don't even want to say it's like almost like an extended Mercury retrograde, but it's really not, because Mars is about the physical world and moving, and Mercury's all the data. But you know, we're gonna feel it. Anyway, I just want to say, Leo rising, this is in your fourth house of the home. I don't know, whatever I said just before, but Leo, yeah, your Leo rising, this is in your fourth house of home and family, and 10th house, it's angular, right? Angular houses, but Virgo is the, my typo, Virgo is, it's going to happen, Virgo rising's third house. So, and 9th house is the lunar eclipse. So the information access, learning, going back to school, learning something. It could be foreign, it could be foreign travel, it could be languages, it could be learning, all of these things, promotion, the internet, you think about communications and writing and such. So yeah, there's that's that. And then the last thing I want to say before I close out is this, I noticed the generation. So these are where people in certain age groups, if you're 68 around, and this is very rough, you know, it depends on the month you were born. So I can't get really specific here, but generally speaking, people who are like 68 to 69 years old, you're going to have an eclipse. This eclipse, the solar eclipse, is going to be falling on or very near your Saturn. So that would be definitely something to take stock of. The 63 to 67 years old, it's going to be on your Neptune, which is governing your dreams, hopes, wishes, dreams, illusions, delusions. Saturn for the 68 to 69-year-olds-ish. Saturn's about responsibility, integrity, accountability, and discipline. Neptune is the, again, mysticism, transcendence, purity, ideal love, compassion, all of those Neptunian qualities. Solar eclipse on that Neptune, that age group. 47 to 48, it'll be on or near your Uranus. Again, Uranus is the planet of rebellion and thinking outside the box, or feeling like maybe there's a breakthrough that might occur where you're not feeling like an outsider anymore. This might be the healing that needs to occur. 30, of course, I could talk for hours on just one planet of all the various iterations, so it's impossible to give a cookbook explanation, but you're getting a little bit of a touchstone here. 39 to 40, this eclipse, you guys that are around 39, 40 years old, this is happening on or near your Saturn, and in that era, that time period, Pluto was very close. So Saturn, Pluto together, woof, with the eclipse there, that can be really, really super potent and awesome for you guys. And then I will just say with the last group to address is children, 9 to 10-year-olds. This is on your Saturn, if you're around that age group. So it's falling on your Saturn. And what came up for me there was LGBTQ support. Because a lot of course, we're seeing this backlash happening the last several months. And I think at that time when kids, they're not quite at that, they're at the prepubescent stage, but they may be looking around and questioning and feeling things, because I know when I've talked to people who are LGBTQ and transgender, many of them said, they knew as a little kid, even way before puberty. So I think it would be good for us to all come out in support of these children. Many of them are questioning, even if they don't, they may have friends who do. So to just really be there for them, and knowing that there is support here. 988 is the new 911, for mental health counseling. It premiered over the summer. So if you know of anybody, reach out, ask them how they're doing. It's always good practice in eclipse, especially this one, 988. Lean on it. There is no shame here. I think too, with that Neptune squaring Mars, is like, look, we can forgive ourselves, and we don't have to be so hard on ourselves around any kind of shame or guilt around our stories around mental health. So 988, that's it. So speaking of that's it, that's all I have for you. I hope you have enjoyed this or gotten value out of it. Please let me know how you're doing. We love hearing from you, your comments on any of this material, any questions. I'm glad to answer them. Glad to help you with the exact, helping you in your chart too, where these eclipses are occurring and what kind of transformation awaits. This is very general information that I've given you. It gets way more specific for those of you who have studied astrology and know how it gets very specific, but at least we have these as guidelines, and I hope that this is helpful to you. So anyway, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time. Take care for now. This is Irlianna Samsara, StarSound Speaks, starsoundastrology.com. Namaste.